Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to Ukraine. For the occasion, we painted the building in matching colors. It was a lot of work. Also, we had to finalize our slides, but here we are, Ukraine. I'm luckily not alone, so Kristina, but also Artem are the true Ukrainian keynote speakers, much appreciated Ukrainian CCBS students. So a little bit the floor to you, please.
Well, hello, I'm Kristina. I'll be presenting with Artem together. We really miss our country, I would say, and I think everybody should know about the culture and business skills we have there because we have some really great businesses and startups that originated from Ukraine. And I think many people would be interested in visiting the country and in its hospitality and services and people mentality.
It is a huge city, one of the largest ones in Europe. And these kind of statues you will often see in former Soviet areas, like there is a huge one in Georgia, but this one is really good and very apt at this moment also, because it's supposed to protect the city. It is the country code is 380. Like I said earlier, we divided the world in zones, and the 3 and 4 zones is Europe. But if a country emerged later, then the number is later, and hence the 380. The internet domain code is UA, not to be mixed up with Emirates or other things. The summertime has been stopped last year, and it is 1 hour earlier than the Central European time. You can fly. There is still enough flights, and it is not that much. It's 3 hours and a quarter of an hour, and you're in Kiev. It's one of the largest countries that I know, actually. It is really huge, 600,000 square kilometers. And if we measure if it's inside Europe, then it will be Ukraine and not Russia, since that is also in the Eurasian and the Asian side, the largest part. My little country fits in 15 times, but then again, it fits in almost anything except Luxembourg, Andorra. Yeah, it is huge. And of course, a lot of people left the country at this moment, so it would be above the 40 million, but at present we would say 39 million. Money, we are called cross-cultural business skills, and hence I have some of actually the smallest banknote, but the one on top, and that smells delicious. What can I say about the money? Well, the currency really devaluated. The last time I visited Ukraine, I was almost feeling guilty because I bought every possible DVD, a video, because sometimes I want to have it like a hard copy, a lot of books and music CDs, and also in restaurants. I invited a whole bunch of people. We had a lot to drink and excellent food, and I was a little bit worried, well, this is going to be a few zeros, but I almost felt guilty when I had to pay. And that is, yeah, it is not expensive. But it feels like you're really in Europe. It's a European city, it's a European vibe, and you would love it. It's very historical centers at times, and yeah, there's some amazing places where you can wander, and good hospitality. Some people complain about the service. Not me. That is not my experience at all. People are super friendly, yeah. So yeah, it is your euro would be quite strong. Last time I visited, I also took these pictures, and what surprises me in some countries, there are not EU members, but you see the EU flag more than at home. And this is a cinema where there's 3, but then also on one of the parks, there are these little stands where they sell all kind of flags, but also quite a bit European one. And the funny thing is that you see the stars, but inside the national emblem of the of Ukraine, or you see it diagonal split, like half EU, and they're everywhere, and everything officially you would see that. Now, I was used to that in Moldova, particularly in Georgia, in lots of other places, but in Ukraine, it's really a lot. I know about the cultural background of this, and that relates very much to, yeah, historical milestones.
And now we're going to talk about those milestones. So, as we just talked about European flags, there is a reason why there are so many. In 2014 and 2004, there were pro-European, pro-democratic revolutions that led to forge the Ukraine that we have today, that is trying to get to European Union and get rid of its old pro-autocratic chains. And the historical milestones, when Ukraine first appears on the map as a Kyivan Rus, is 9th to 13th century, where it actually marked as one of the biggest trading hub between Baltic countries and Byzantine world. And since then, Ukraine been at the heart of Europe. Then in 1920s, there were Soviet times started, with unpleasant times in the 30s with Holodomor. But actually, when Ukraine again becomes more important for Europe is 1945, when it becomes founding member of United Nations organization. And since 1991, when independence finally was declared, we had all the good times with the pro-European way that we chose. And alas, since 2014, we have all those conflict that you know.
Yeah, you're still with us. Yeah, it is the revolution of the Euromaidan. I strongly have the images on my in my eyes. It has been, yeah, for many years your country has been in the news, and if you read or watch, it is always Ukraine. We would like to give the floor a little bit to His Excellency Chenchov, the ambassador at the time, and if you recognize it, he's in the school building, incredibly nice and erudite, elaborate man who really took time to talk to discuss with students, and a lot of Ukrainians also in the audience. And he was kind enough to also say some nice words about our course. Hit it, Ambassador.
I'm Всеволод Chentsov, Ambassador of Ukraine in the Netherlands. It was my first time here in the Amsterdam University of Applied Science, and I really enjoying this function. This program, it's a cultural exchanges, cross-cultural business skills. I think it's a very right thing to do to open student minds, to show them the country from the interesting angle, cultural angle. I think it would be very helpful for them as a future professionals, diplomats, business people, to be able to grasp the country in a right way and to do business with people, to get engaged with the people from start and successfully. So thank you very much once again for this opportunity of being here, and good luck with the program.
So nice. And what His Excellency mentioned is that we zoom into mindset matters. We try to look at things that work and that don't work between cultures, and primarily we will do so from Dutch to Ukrainian perspective, but CCBS is also for the world in a way. So we try to share with you some important Ukrainian insights.
Yeah, I think it is really important to mention our mindset, because how we think, feel, it's how we survive, and it's what keeps us going, and we're really open towards the different cultures and connections. As the ambassador mentioned. What primary trust matters for us mostly, and showing how reliable you are as a person matters more than like your formal promises. Also, being honest is respected, and fake politeness is not. Actions prove your worth, and words mean little to us as long as you don't show, as you don't keep it, and you're not a man or a woman of your word. Also, humor is, our warmth is the part that builds the connections between us. Yeah, and of course, respect and good manners count more than your status.
Yeah. Um,
Also, yeah, more about mentality. So let me explain the sliders I've made. Relationships come first for us. Tasks are second. We always stay collective. Our family, friends, and communities play central role in decisions. So normally before taking some action or making a decision, we would consult with our families, or we rarely take decisions alone. Authority is also respected, but only if it feels fair. And the quote that you see, "I'm a leader, you're a fool, you're a leader, I'm a fool," it reflects that we prefer balance and that no one should act above others in our way. And also, when it comes to emotions, we're pretty emotional. We don't hide them. Expression, even a bit of drama, is pretty normal for us.
yeah, nice.
Yeah, more about the business culture. There's such thing called blood. It refers to using personal networks and favors to get things done. It's not corruption, but it's just the mutual benefit that we have. Also, after work gatherings are really essential. That's where many business relationships are built and many deals are sealed. We often stay formal at work, of course, but in personal life, we're pretty open and friendly, I would say. And of course, when the trust is earned, those partnerships, whether in work or in normal life, they last for years. And sincerity, of course, is a huge aspect.
Yeah. Um, if I look at my own experiences, and also you see a lot of Ukrainians now that are in a diaspora situation. The one thing that my pronunciation, I'm a little bit tricky with
I
this
can
one.
help you out there. It's
Yeah.
spivchutnost. It's one of the core values of Ukrainians that fits right in what we just discussed. It's solidarity and
Yeah.
the ability of Ukrainians to overcome difficulty and help each other in any situations and always keep supporting each other.
Yeah, and you feel that, right? Also here in the Netherlands, or people in Germany and Poland, I saw it a lot, and it is nice to experience that as an outsider, and I did it a few times, and so it's empathy, it's responsibility, collective kindness, in a good way, and like Kristina said, also manners, and you'll be surprised by good classic manners that you can still perceive in Ukraine. Also the opposite, but definitely in general, I would say a little bit better perhaps than where we are at this stage here. There's still some classic doors that being kept open, and things of the door of the car or helping with the chair. This kind of classic chivalry is still available, which I kind of personally also appreciate.
And also what is interesting is domestic tourism in Ukraine as a part of the culture. As we discussed, Ukraine is hugely big, and to travel through it, you will need more than just a bicycle. So yeah, it's just majority of people in Ukraine travel within country, and it is interesting aspect that may be surprise for outsiders, but yeah, we love to travel inside, and we have many interesting places that with a beautiful nature, and that will come up later with the nature.
Artem, you're wearing an amazing shirt. Can you
Yep.
elaborate on what this is?
And it's called vyshivanka. It's a traditional Ukrainian clothes that also, by the way, quite popular and similar thing you can find in other neighboring Slavic countries. And it represents the stability, and each picture in different regions, they have a meaning. And that is soul of Ukraine, that every little part is important for us.
Yeah, nice. DIM, the cult of home. That, if you look into academic research literature, this is a very constant one that is popping up. What about it? What is home?
So Ukrainians tend to be through the history very centric on people, and the home been the like a castle of all the values and the norms in Ukraine, as we had to go through many centuries of colonization, if you can call it like that, from other countries. So house always been a place where it's not just the home, it's also the people that you see there. So family and home is like always in the heart of Ukrainians, and you can see through the culture. And like if you ask any Ukrainian what is top values, the house and the family will always be at the top. So it is important to keep in mind.
Yeah, here we have three ladies that are not in the home. You have surveillance cameras, and you have the ladies. What about it? What does it represent?
Yeah, the picture says the Google doesn't know what they do, and this is a common thing in Ukraine, that elderly people are respected and the hierarchy respects the age. So in Ukraine, you can very often see those ladies sitting by the apartment houses, chatting to each other, and believe me, they know where you're from, where you live, who you are. So yeah, it is
what you did last night.
It is a funny aspect, yeah, but you always keep that in mind, that actually respect and people that are like sitting by their home, you have to respect them, because they're like the walls, if you say that.
Yes. In many cultures, it doesn't always appear on the surface, but the decision-taking model that they follow could be influenced unexpectedly by something that doesn't fit in ChatGPT or a kind of decision tree. You have studied this at school. Can you elaborate a little bit on superstition, on mythology?
Yeah, I think we're pretty superstitious. For example, if you say something and you don't want the person to jinx it or yourself to jinx it, you always have to spit through over your left shoulder 3 times and then knock on the wood. If you can't find any wood nearby, you just knock on your head 3 times. And there are many more either verbal ones or oh yeah, this is our mythology, I think. This is a big part of our life from the childhood, I think, because this is what we've been learning about in schools, in all the books and literature and stories of the famous Ukrainian authors that involve the characters. It is mostly nature, spirits, and like ancient legends that mix mystery and some everyday life. In the first picture on the left, you can see Mavka. She's a forest spirit who falls in love with a human, and it shows the story about love and the connection between nature and the human worlds. In the middle, you can see Vodyanik. He's a water spirit and he protects rivers and the inhabitants. But he can also be tricky, and if you disrespect nature, he can play jokes on you, or he can help you. For example, fishermen's. He can provide a good catch for you if you're good to the nature. And the last one on the right is Lisovik. He's the forest guardian. As you can see, he's really old and wise, and he keeps the balance. And he can also be really playful and angry. For example, if you disrespect the nature, he can kind of mess with your path, with the traveler, so you get lost in the forest, or he can lead your way. And I think it really shows how close we are to the nature and how always been close to the nature, living in harmony with it. And it will be mentioned more later as well.
What is the perfect son-in-law, Artem, a Ukrainian role model?
So, as we just discussed, the traditions you can see that Ukrainian people really follow and root. So here's the model role Ukrainian for you. Wakes up early in the morning, swears at politics or the government, fixes 3 things between the breakfast, and then works hard, even though complains harder, but get things done. It's like Ukrainian mentality. We say aloud what we think, but we get things done. And always ready to help, but arguing is a thing. So people are not avoiding the conflict, so be ready. Smiles rarely, but it's because Ukrainians don't like superficial. Like if you smile, it should be from the heart. If you laugh loud. And you remember people, you remember the good things they do for you. So in equal part, Ukrainians usually see themselves as a philosopher, mechanics, and comedian. It's a combination that help us go through the times. And of course, as we talk about tradition, you respect elderly traditions and listens to mama. That's important.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we are called cross-cultural business skills. So an element of what we discuss and research for the country presentation also has to deal with the professional functions that you are be performing fairly soon in hopefully an international context. We selected a couple. Hierarchy. Hierarchy is still very important in Ukraine, and it's still very visible also in behavior, in language, the way you address people, that you would use the naming system would also include a father's name, and then it would be polite to also use that. So Artem, what's your names?
So yeah, if I would be a professor in school, I would be called Artem Oleksiyevich, is my father is Oleksiy, and this is very common in Ukraine that you talk to people and if it's with respect with their father name in it.
Yeah, and then for the ladies, the name can also have a female suffix at the end, right? So yeah.
Yeah, so I would be Kristina Olegivna. As you can see, it ends with A in most of the times.
Yeah. Now, rank is important, and we also see that the markers of power need to be visible and need to be shown. So the watch can be bigger and bigger, the car can be bigger, the helicopter can be bigger. There is an element that appreciates that. Authority, there might be a discussion, but in the end, the boss is the boss, and it tends to be rather hierarchical. And you need to shoot at the highest level. It's top down, and that is the way it functions best, I would say, combined of course with things like very personal relationships and introductions, not unimportant. Secondly, there is on the one hand the directness of the Ukrainian, and in that sense you can somewhat compare it to France, where we can also say, well, it's very indirect, and at the same time conflict is not a situation that there is no fear for that, but it's called le débat in France. And I would say there are some parallels for me between Ukrainian and certain other Slavic cultures and the French, where you are careful with your words, you show the necessary respect, but still within that you can disagree, but the indirectness will be there. And it might at times be a little bit shocking when you first, as a Ukrainian, come to direct cultures like in Switzerland or Germany or Netherlands, where at times it is straight in the face because you're not used to that. You use another way to express that. So the context is important, and that means that people from more direct cultures might miss the hidden message. It's not as extreme as in the Far East of Asia or parts of Africa or Latin America, but it's definitely not the same. And this takes some getting used to. Yeah, it moves. Freedom.
Yeah, as probably you've seen a lot, Ukrainians really love freedom. Ukrainian and freedom go together. In Ukrainian, we say svoboda, and it's even in our anthem. For Ukrainians, because of the history of colonialism and how we got out of it, the real importance as freedom. But what we say by freedom is not the freedom of action. It's more of like being not governed, being ungoverned, like when you are free to do what you seem right, and that fits in that idea of Ukrainian directness, where we want to do what we want to do, and we are not afraid to be stubborn to fight for the things that we really need.
Yeah, it's and also appreciated
in history.
It's seen as a positive thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. A definitely stubborn man, but also an incredible freedom fighter in a way would be Shevchenko. You had to study his books.
Yes, of course. In Ukraine, it is mandatory. You learn through the school his works. The history of this man is what it resembles Ukrainian will for freedom. The guy was from a serf family. If you don't know who are serf, it's like slaves of the landowner. It's very usual in countries like Ukraine and past. But basically, he was from the serf family, and no education was available for him. So he was learning how to write and read by himself. But later on, he was drafted into the Russian Empire Army and spent more than 20 years being sent to different places in the empire, and even fought in Georgian War. And in the end of his life, when he was almost 50 years old, he finally got his freedom. And don't forget that all this time when he was imprisoned or on the like hard labor works,
yeah.
even there, yeah,
Yeah.
probably he was. So he was writing in Ukrainian, even though he knew it was banned, prohibited, and very unpopular. He still wrote in Ukrainian, and the lyrics that he like written more than 200 years ago are still used to this day in Ukraine, and that shows the will for freedom and yeah, this hungerness for being
Determination,
free
yeah.
from chains. Yeah.
And that is the independence of mind.
Yeah, and independence of mind is what I just kind of tackled on, is that we don't like to be told what to do. Authority and the government, they don't have the authority that you look for. Like, it's not really respected. So you always have to have this interpersonal connection. That's kind of what Ukrainian mind is. And respect first and instructions later really resembles that. We even have a proverb: there's too many chiefs for one Cossack. Cossack is a Ukrainian warrior back in the history. And it shows that too many people tell you what to do when you just trying to survive. And so Ukrainians are proud, inventive, and stubborn. As understanding this is a key to the Ukrainians as a nation. But
Yeah, thank you. I have been searching so hard to find good, decent books on cross-cultural. And this is a book that is just published last year by Marina Starudowska. How to Understand Ukrainians, a Cross-Cultural Perspective. It's very rich in academic sources, and I drew a couple of elements from it in our expose on the Ukrainian mindset, which is of course a little bit tricky because there is so many Ukrainians. We have to accept it's a multicultural society. Looking at the size, that comes as no surprise, but it's also the history. You have to realize that large parts were even under Austria, Hungary, the Habsburg double monarchy, the Lithuanians, the Polish. There's people that weren't allowed to speak anything but Polish, and there has been some experiences of foreign powers that probably left its mark. But back to Miss Marina. One of the elements she refers to in her work is the Ingreb logic, and that is where we see that favoritism. So you are belonging to an inner circle, and there are obligations and favors within that circle, and they are kind of like Artem just referred to the personal relations. They are so vital in getting things done. So in general, it doesn't necessarily need to be nepotism in that way, although at times it may be. But I think also Kristina earlier, she said, well, it's not corruption, but it is the way things work best. Networks, personal networks, they are the ones that are gonna deliver for you. And we also see that there is a bandwidth of how much a formal rule applies to you, and if there are special cases why it in a way it can be solved, which is very comparable to what we would see in France or Italy or Spain or Portugal, and I can continue for a while. So the rule of law, it is of course a little bit difficult, because if you have a government that is not your friend, the courts are going to be on that side. So to stick a label on it, I don't dare. But what we can see now, and that is also what she describes in her book, is that courts are still lacking trust at this moment. And we see that equality of rule, of law is not always seen. And journalists might also be on top of it. So people choose networks because that's something you can control and you can predict. And if you can predict it, you can manage it. And in order to get into these circles, you also have to navigate the gatekeepers, the recognized insiders that validate your access to a network or a blood or these kind of things. So personal recommendations are much stronger than the formal procedures, and that still a lot is run that way. And it also would include governmental contracts or decisions who's going to replace a new minister, and these are in these circles, which is not always negative. It can at times be negative, and that's what we would see in the press. But you also have to realize that within that network, it is also a kind of quality check that is validated by insiders. So it's not in their benefit to have somebody who's not able or not just for the cause. But contracts is usually people first. And if you want something done, you need to invest to that. So I've been one time present at a countryside house, a dacha, where they wanted to go fishing, and in order to get the financing done, you had to get completely wasted with the bank director, but that's how you would also know that this would work. And for me, that's awkward. That if I need to spend a lot of money, I first need to go outside in the countryside, fish for 2 days, and have giant headaches, but giant headaches starting at 6 o'clock in the early evening, but continuing. And that was for me like, wow, this is really different, which is refreshing and a lot of fun, that I can say. They know how to party. Nature.
Yeah, going back to our beautiful nature, it's a huge part of our culture. We show respect to it, and literature, art, and music and paintings are often related to nature. Here you can see beautiful Carpathian mountains where you can take a hike, eat some delicious food, of course, or boil in we call it a chan. It's this huge pot that's boiling and you basically sit in it and enjoy. It's like sauna or jacuzzi, but in the nature, and you're basically boiling in it. Or you can ski in the winter in Bukovel. We've also showed some pictures before.
Nice.
Yeah.
I absolutely love this. Can you tell us where and how, and is this in this giant country on most places, or where can I visit this next time?
Yeah, this is like a Ukrainian traditional home called chata in Ukrainian. This is really ancient, but I think you can still see it in some places. For example, in Carpathian Mountains, I believe there are plenty of such historical spots. For example, I think Taras Shevchenko, he also lived in this kind of chata. And you can also see the flowers painted across the walls. It's made out of clay and some straws and wood, so it's united to nature again, and those walls hold a huge history and they're so meaningful to us. I think it is gorgeous.
Yes, it is. We're going to talk a little bit about language, because language is in a way what separates and unites us, and it is there. You think in Cyrillic, I suppose, when you started, and now you've been Amsterdamized, but but natural would be Latin, or still Cyrillic for you?
I think Cyrillic, like Russian or Bulgarian, it is really similar, but we have some unique sounds and letters, as we can see in the alphabet, which is called abetka in Ukrainian. And I can pronounce all the letters for you, so you can see and like hear how different and how difficult it is. So from the beginning, it's A, B, V, G, G, D, E, Y, J, Z, I, Y, Y, K, L, M, N, O, P, R, S, T, U, F, H, Ц, Ч, Ш, Щ, м'який знак, you, ya. So м'який знак is the one of the last letters. It's a weird sign. It's a softness sign that basically makes the letter that comes before it soft. And we have a lot of similar letters like ge and he, and the difference is in pronunciation and depends on the word that you use it in.
But for me, I had to study Russian, but there's a lot of similarities that I recognize. So I feel I can read some Ukrainian, in fact.
Yeah.
But for me, what's so difficult is the last part, all the ch.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
hear I don't hear the difference, you know. But for
Also,
you,
we have
it's not.
the also we have the apostrophe sign that we put in the middle or in the end of some words.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's
it's.
pretty confusing.
I think, but I do think it is a beautiful language. It has a lot of these things in it that where you know dentists will enjoy. I think it's a good moment for the people at home to practice their Ukrainian, and we have a magnificent teacher, ladies and gentlemen. Mrs. Kristina will be your linguistic teacher.
Kristina Olegivna, as we would say in the university. So the first tongue twister, get ready, is Бабин біб розцвів у дощ, буде бабі бібу борщ. How does that sound?
I like the last word.
Борщ, of course. And you can see the translation that the bean has bloomed in the rain and the grandma will have beans for her borscht. And the other one is maybe easier. It's Ворона проворонила вороненя. The crow lost her little crow. That's easier for me to pronounce.
And you
than
said
with all
maybe
the...
easier, right? She did say that, yes. Everybody together. Well, you can pause the video and give it a shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can try to do it together because for me the tongue twisters are really horrible. I don't know why, but they always make my mind stumble. So if you want to try with us, you can. Should we go for it with you, Mr. Sander?
Okay, we do. Sure, we do the last one in that case, which she calls easier.
Okay.
Okay.
So 1, 2, 3. Ворона проворонила вороненя.
Yeah, it's really difficult.
Oh, we have the next slide already. It's going so fast. Russophone. How to pronounce the second word? Surjuk. Yeah, which is interesting because that is actually a kind of a mixed language where there is crossovers between Ukrainian and Russian, where grammar and pronunciation is strictly Ukrainian, but a lot of loan phonemes words are taken from Russia. Nothing special because we do it all the time with English or even with Suriname. Russian is still spoken a lot, not as much as in the past. When the majority of television and music would still be in Russian. But we see that the cities have strong pockets of Russophone people. And then at the same time, we also saw that in different stages, we have seen the Ukrainization of society with independence, later on 2014. And now it seems to be really decisive because for logical reasons. Now, what I use as a kind of thermometer is the beautiful metro of Kiev. How deep is the deepest one under the ground, Artem?
I believe it was 115 meters deep, one of the stations, and it's really deep. You go in like on those escalators for like 10 minutes straight, just going down. And it's you should not be claustrophobic, I remember, because the ceiling is actually quite close. But you have to realize, people, that they take it out of the rocks, and you know you're going through the stone. It's amazing how they built it. What is also amazing is the sheer beauty. They're the people's palaces, all in line with the way Marx and Lenin would have liked it. But if we look at the language, because that is this section, and we look at the signing, the announcements, we see a shift each time. So from the 60s to the 80s, Ukrainian moved into Russian, particularly under the Russification, which took place at a certain stage. And then with Perestroika, when a lot of freedom came also that allowed freedom
for local, although on the old bills of the money, I have one somewhere, an old Russian bill where you actually see it in 15 languages, where a ruble is being described, so also in Ukrainian. At the same time, we also see that it is kind of fake. And then in the early 90s, Ukrainian only, and it was a kind of de-Russification. And then in 2012, we see also that English in a modern international capital starts to enter. And it's a pity for Ukraine, because if the mess with Crim and now wouldn't have happened, I predict there would have been a lot positive things happening. They will come, inshallah. What will not be certain is what will happen to the occupied territories. They are under very strict rule, and sometimes the ministries decide. And you have to realize that, imagine that you live in Denmark or the Netherlands, and then all of a sudden it's being decided that the schools no longer teach that language. That is taking place at this moment in some areas, and then in return you get agricultural technology, and that is the course you get, and then everything is Russified in a very strict manner. That is the reality, and there is a bit of a constitutional paradox, because I think Ukraine is trying to respond to things happening to her. It's not by choice, but there are strong feelings to it, which is very understandable. Now, if we look at the Article 10 of the Constitution, it guarantees the protection of minority languages, but at the same time, there's a very strong sentiment they want it. So then we had a national council and higher courts declare that if you're Russophone, it's not a protected minority, and all kind of word games, and the people in charge of the language are then saying, well, should we or should we not take it out of Ukrainian higher education? It's happening. We see in Ukraine nation building, very logical, and it's going faster because there is a deep hate against the enemy. But some people are actually born out of Russian people and still call themselves Ukrainians by heart and soul, or have a ethnic Ukrainian mom and a Russian dad. And there's so many like that. And so it is the language that you were brought up in, that you think in, that you are angry and in love with. But at the same time, there is this doubleness about it. What's taking place in the territories that have now been occupied is complete cultural erasure. History have taught us many lessons, but that's not going to sustain. And it's not the first time that this is happening to Ukraine. It is experienced that many, many times. People had to speak German, had to speak Polish. There's all kind of things. So let's see what the future has in store. And if we zoom in, you can see the giant size of this place. And there are some areas where a lot of discussion is going to happen and is happening already now. We are cross-cultural and not cross-political, so I will move away from it. One way that geography has been politicized is by what is the geographical center. And I'm very happy to let you know, dear audience, dear viewers at home, that Ukraine is the very heart and the very center of Europe. And actually, Artem said it earlier, we are in the center of Europe. And I think some people might have thought, well, you're like super in the east. Yes and no, but because if you measure where it would be. But what is interesting perhaps is that earlier on, close to this monument that you would see now in Dilov, there is also Austria-Hungary, which then as an empire also ruled larger parts of Ukraine, and a city like Lviv and Lvov or whatever. Then the USSR also said, and it says, well, that is what kind of proves our European identity. We're in the heart of Europe. And now it is used in a way to, look to the West. So different regimes used it for their own narrative. And these poor geographers, they're always building monuments. Brad. Yep.
Yeah, we have so many fields, and bread is, as we say, хліб усьому голова. which means bread is the head of everything. That's what our grandparents taught us since childhood, our parents. We never throw away the bread. It's something horrible to do. We give it back to the nature, like feeding the birds in winter, or we freeze it and keep it for later, or we make kvass, a fermented drink out of it, which has some alcohol percentage in it, but it's considered an alcoholic drink, which kids can also have.
It's actually quite nice, huh? It's kind of brownish liquid, let's say, yeah. And yeah. And I saw these, I saw in a park, it was painted in Ukrainian flag, kind of tank carriage and they were selling it in the park by the glass. And that was my first glass of, that's kvass. And I finally can taste it because it was difficult to get, but I'll try to get some tonight at the Ukrainian night in school, combined with the Global Business Skills closure ceremony. Huge country, and what is it's very, very fertile. These grounds are among the best in the world. It's called the black soil, in chornozem or chornezem in Russian language. Yeah. And Ukraine has the most excellent conditions for agriculture. It's hosting a third of the world's best of the best lands. And you have to realize that, you know, food is what makes the world go round. And we saw that with the incidents that in Egypt and other places in Africa, we got turmoil simply because Ukraine was stopped from exporting its crops. It was Adolf Hitler who called Ukraine the key to German abundance. So yeah, there is the Soviet soldiers had this song, "To eat and to drink our fill," and we're going to Ukraine. We're gonna you know fill our bellies, and it is now inside the EU market. And is it only friendship of Europe and care about democracy, or do we also see the geopolitical strength, the being food autonomous, and making in that sense also Russia more dependent on it? If you think of it, what happened with the boycott of or the closure of the harbors, there was a crisis. We were paying all too much all over the world. And that is for the pasta, that is for the noodle soup. This is all over, and so this is what my grandmother already called the grain barn of the world, or at least of Europe. But I would definitely say of Africa and parts of Asia as well. That's where it's from. And that's what we do. So soy, wheat, corn, this is all coming from Ukraine, and we're depending on it now. If we look a little bit at the strength, people also see it's not just a resource, it's maybe also identity. I don't want to go to Blood and Boden theories because they're a little bit, you know, you have to somewhat be careful. But there is Mother Earth, and that is something that is, you know, felt. And I think if you listen to how Kristina was describing her connectivity to nature, or Artem talked about home, dim, these are elements of the Mother Earth. So whenever there is a crisis, in Ukraine, people may not flee, but they return to their soil. And probably that is what also, instead of going away, people actually fought back, which surprised many people in the world. Yeah, that is element also of a deeper value that would be the earth, the black soil, the best soil this earth has. Also, because the other part in the world where we have it in Canada, it's usually covered under snow and a lot of ice. So I'm going to ask a little bit of help, Kristina, on this one, because I noticed that Ukrainians that I had the fortune to meet, they had these enormous high heels, and I guess particularly here in the Netherlands, where very feminine is coming in a little bit, but it's far from what you would feel is like normal or what an average girl would prefer. But it's like these ultra heels for very young women. So what is your take on it? What is for you, what you feel like this is my standard?
I would say maybe currently it's not an everyday thing to wear high heels. But back in the days when I used to see my mom go out in winter in those like really large high stiletto boots, and winters in Ukraine are different than here. We have the ice and snow, and ladies still go out in heels. It's crazy, but it's like, wow, it's a scale. I don't know. This stereotype comes from our childhood because our moms always used to tell us that we have to look our best at any occasion, anytime we go out of the house. My mom used to even wear lipstick to literally take out trash outside or do grocery shopping. She said it's a must to look your best, or at least put some touch to it. So
But it's
self-care is
true.
big.
If you look at the amount of beauty salons that you have in Kiev and you compare it to Amsterdam, in Kiev it's everywhere. And I could see that even students in university, it would be on the premises of the university would be at least 3 or 5 boutiques. And then places like Kazakhstan, there's one, but there's one hairdresser. But inside the university, there's a hairdresser. I don't see any hairdressers at Vrijnemaborg. There never will be. And there's also no need for it, as would be the high heels, because it doesn't work on a bicycle, does it now? But I also read that 40% of female adults have what we call in Dutch platvoeten, flat feet issues, where they need to actually visit our orthopedist because of over wearing high heels. One thing that I remember was in the news, and therefore I also selected it. It's not that long ago, but the Ukrainian army, and I'm also remembering also police force, they were wearing really high heels and pretty short skirts. And I thought, wow, this is a police lady, and this is charming. But please arrest me. No, that I shouldn't have recorded it. I remember this discussion that they had. They said, well, this is sexist, medieval mindset. But you actually here see the heels. It's different, and it is. But it's also part of expectations. So if you are going to visit it, you will see that the average predictable way of I should do this would be like your mom in a way, because people really dress up. And then if you would come, so if you're invited to a party, and you just go with your regular daytime clothing, it's different. It's a different approach, and it is not the way it's done in most Slavic cultures, I would say, actually. Again, a joke, but then again, not a joke. For me, Galicia is in Spain. But Galicia is also a bigger part of both Poland and it's an old small empire that was doing really well. But you have two Galicias. You have Galicia if you check it on Wikipedia, you have Galicia Spain and Galicia Eastern Europe, or maybe should we call it Central Europe? I never know. Would you want to be called Eastern European or Central European?
It's interesting because for ourselves, we call ourselves Eastern European because as Ukrainians, we're trying to get into European Union, which is for us Europe on the west. But if we're talking about continent, it might as well be Central.
Yeah. And in your own language, what would you say?
We would call this part Galiciana. Galicia
forget about Galicia, but as a Ukrainian, are you Eastern European and Central European?
Actually, in Ukraine, you never hear those terms because most of the times we refer to ourselves as Ukrainians because it is interesting aspect, by the way, because even though we are between big forces, we always refer to ourselves as this unique, closed-off nation from everyone. I think that is also rooted to our rootedness to our lands and traditions.
Yeah.
I would say after living almost 4 years in the Western Europe, see Ukraine now as Eastern Europe, but back in Ukraine, people don't think that way.
I would definitely call it Eastern, because in Poland, I would say Central European, but I think because we used to have the terminology East Bloc, which would be the Warsaw Pact, and that's why everybody calls them Eastern Europeans, but a lot of countries would not feel comfortable with being called Eastern. Good. This is a little bit of a kind of an invitation to brainstorm me, like discuss a little bit, because in fact I want to post that Ukraine has been colonized by many nations for many centuries, and at the moment we actually are witnessing the decolonization process. Now it has been going on with an independence, but a lot of the intelligentsia would still address each other in Russian, would still go to universities still in Russia, although a lot of Russians studied in Kiev as well. We would look at the media, or let's say the music that was played on the radio, 60-70% would be Russian centered. So there was a long time a kind of cultural superiority feeling that the Moscovitism would bring, and even ethnic Ukrainians would sometimes partake in this. And then over stages with the war, I believe that now is actually the moment that you can see that it's going to shift dramatically, because why would you, a lot of people don't want Russian anymore. So what comes next? Is it going to be a fake neo-nationalism where they construct all kind of ways? Is it the multiculturalism that in a way Ukraine would be representing? So it's a very interesting period once the guns will silence, and how this country is going to develop, which direction it's going to take. I don't know, and I'm gonna follow it with open heart. What are your takes on it? What do you feel about this? Is it something it's discussed or not yet? Huh?
Oh yeah, it is a big topic in Ukraine because we constantly have to rethink of our everyday norms in Ukraine, because even my generation has seen it from multiple perspectives. I started school when Russian language was still like one of the basic subjects because of our roots with the Soviet Union. But then in the 8th grade, it was cancelled. And you can see how overall the power of productions and partnerships shifting from the east to the west, to the south. Now Ukraine is like at work with so many different countries, and we have to think, and in Ukraine it's a big topic, that because we were divided into many colonies, so to say, even like if you Google territories of Ukraine, you will not find like one territory or two. You will find three. It's southern, eastern, western, and people in there and statistic between them can vary like very drastically. So it is an ongoing process of finding our own identity to this day.
Yeah. What do you have thoughts on this, Kristina? What is your feeling?
Well, as Artem said, that we started in Russian-speaking schools, but it was a bit different for me because I come from the occupied part, from the eastern part, and Russian remained the primary language there till these days, but Ukrainian was still kept there as a second language, and they used to teach that in schools, but as you showed, now there is this change in the school program that they removed Ukrainian. But when I was still in school, we still had Ukrainian as the second language, not our first.
And if you talk to family members, what language do you use?
Russian. For me, it is
exactly,
Russian.
Yeah. And sometimes I was listening to the two of you and I think, hey, that's Russian they're talking. So yeah. Yeah. Another thing, it's not for everyone in the West that's been that prominent, but often in rhetorics we see that Moscow and also the president of the Federal Republic Federation is claiming that Russians, Ukrainians, and Belarusians are one people, and often that is supported by the Rus legacy. So it is claimed that it is Ukraine doesn't exist because it's historically Russian land, and we get to hear about this theory often these days. The Ukraine counter would be, well,
with the fact that the Rus itself was a Kyivan Rus, and you can hear that argument very often to be counter to the even modern name of the Russia. Ukrainians sometimes say, hey, you just took our name, while as in fact Rus is always somewhere between that.
Yeah, the irony is also there in a way, because actually, and also Belarus is also using the Rus legacy sometimes in its story, but in fact they were Vikings. There were people from the Baltics that had their court in Kiev, and like Artem said, because of the trade with Constantinople, nowadays Istanbul. So history, it explains a connection, and the politics explain a distortion of facts being used as they like. Luckily, there's also the pretty side of it. What is your favorite area
In Kiev, it would be actually a Dnipro, because Kiev is divided into the two parts, the left coast and right coast. And interesting, they are reversed on the map because they are called so from the stream of the Dnipro River. So the left is right on the map and vice versa. And of course, middle of the Kiev is the most interesting part for me as a local, because most of the student places, clubs, parties, and markets are located by the Dnipro in the geographical center. And it's like, after conflict ends, I wish everyone to visit it at least once, how beautiful it is.
for the libraries and the campuses, right?
Yeah, and the historical places like churches that are standing for more than 900 years.
Yeah, some are really amazing. What always surprises me a little bit, I know that, Orthodox Christmas is on January 7, and that's a public holiday, it makes sense. But then you have a double tree. You also have a public holiday on December 25th. So lucky you got two enormous parties. That brings us to the culinary Ukrainian. Guys, take away. You miss the food?
Oh yeah, of course. The food of Ukraine is one of the key things every Ukrainian misses. And
But not this
sometimes it
one.
goes even to the nightmare extent. Here you can see salo, which is pig lard or fat. And salo is one of the main Ukrainian snack food. It goes with drinks, with everything. On the left you can see even sushi rolls made with salo, with the black bread inside, some pickles, and mustard on top. And on the right you can see extreme extent of that love represented in la salo au chocolat, so you can say. But I personally never tried it, but you can find those things in Ukraine, definitely. And here you can see what most Ukrainian misses is celebration, is eating culture. In Ukrainian, we eat so much, it's just incomprehensible. And sometimes we even say, if you have a meeting over the dinner with someone, you can cancel tomorrow's plan because you will be still eating. And if you look at those tables, it's just amazing how much effort and time spent to do the food, and just the pleasure
Also decoration.
of eating with the
There's
friends.
always a gracious white cloth on it, and lots of long tables with abundance, and that's something else than the Albert Heijn kind of treat you might get here at times. Be honest, no, that's the one part you miss.
And that's right.
The way they know how to they know how to throw in, and it's elegant, it's taken care of. The eye eats as well. Yeah, lovely. Some goodies. Mine is absolutely the one in the middle. If the audience, if you haven't tried a good borscht, it is so good. You should definitely go there and try. What are we eating? I get hungry.
What are
when
we
I look at
eating?
this.
On the first picture, you can see the golubtsi. It's minced meat, any type of meat, chicken, beef, pork. It is wrapped in a cabbage leaf, and it's basically stewed with tomato sauce. And then, of course, we eat it with sour cream because smetana. We add it to almost every dish, to borscht, to golubtsi. Okroshka is like cold soup you see on the right. We cook it during summertime or for New Year's Eve. It's gonna be so weird for you, probably.
Artem.
And here we can see the controversy between the Western and Eastern eating culture. Probably you heard about it. Yeah,
Thank you.
so
Oh, I'm back.
So the controversy is that what Western found disgusting, Eastern people actually love. You can see the black bread with a fat slice of sausage, some dried fish, small shot of vodka, beet juice, and of course pickles. Those are main parts of any food festival you'll have. And it's just interesting how much we are different in the taste of food. What we found delicious, some people would call, as in this meme picture, like something unpleasant. But in fact, yeah, it's just delicious if you try it. So you should give it a try if you have a chance.
Oh yes, and you will see a lot of those also on dishes when you have the vodka tasting. There's a lot of fish and yeah, nice. Whoops, we missed the delicious part. Again, the smetana.
Yeah, again, smetana with mlinci, like thin crepes. We eat it with any fillings, like chicken, beef, red caviar, sweet fillings, anything. But smetana is a must.
You call it ikra, huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Червона икра. Oh yeah, and this is Roshen. I think it's pretty popular in Ukraine too because they actually export to 55 countries. And this company was founded by Petro Poroshenko, a former Ukrainian president. And I think it really is a great example of Ukrainian entrepreneurship, and it shows the European level quality, the branding, the tradition as well. Yeah, it's a huge success.
And for the interesting part, the vodka, or as so we call it in Ukraine, horilka, and the drinking culture. Ukrainians prefer strong drinks. You will always see shots on the table. And how we drink. Many people always ask me when I came to the other parts of the world, like, what do you say when you drink? And in Ukraine, we have word budno, but most often we drink as a toasting. So we always salute for something. And here you can see the clear line that usually it starts with toast for everyone. За нас. It's like for everyone at the table, for us. It means that the health and everyone is appreciated. The second goal in Ukrainian, за вас. The nas and vas means us and you. And it means like for all the guests that came. And then you go for the love, for the men at the table, for the women, and then all the men should stand as gentlemen and drink proudly, for the children, for the parents, for the luck, for the good business start. And it goes so until you cannot toast anymore. And always you should know you cannot leave without a couple more toasting to show respect to everyone and that you still can stand. So drinking culture is a thing, and if you're not heavy drinker, you should be prepared for that. And yeah.
It's a lot, huh? I have some statistics here, and what is interesting is that Ukraine is just in the double digits, and as the gentleman in the middle is showing, yeah, it is a lot. I think it's not expensive. It never has been.
Not.
No,
It's quite affordable. And the interesting part why people drink so much is also like masculinity culture, that you have to show that you can go further and further, and there is no soft limit like I had enough. No, you never had enough if you're in Ukraine.
Yeah, but I think it's not just the men. Huh? It's quite.
Oh no, it's everyone.
Yeah,
it's even the elderly people. They know how to party for sure.
Yeah. And what's interesting is that these people are all 22 years old, because it's such a healthy drinking diet that the gentleman also is very young. Enough. So music, after you've had your bottle.
You always start singing in Ukraine, and the music is a big part. You cannot go without it anywhere. Be prepared to sing when you drink. This is a common thing. And here are just some examples of the quite popular authors on the Spotify. And one on the left is Party Engine of Ukraine, actually. So you can hear it every time. And by the way, if you go tonight to the pub quiz of Ukraine and GBS ceremony, you will hear that. And on the right, you can see Boombox, which is now very popular with their song that you probably heard, Червона калина. But long story short, yeah, you just be prepared that you will listen lots and lots of music in Ukraine, and of course, singing after drinking.
There you go. There's also some slightly more calmer from my generation, but I quite like Piano Boy. It's a bit more R&B-ish, but it's there's some really good singers in Ukraine. They sing in Ukrainian. They used to also make songs in Russian because of the market. I don't know how that's going to develop and how that will. But there are some pretty good actors and really good musicians, and you might not automatically look into that, but I'd like to challenge you perhaps on YouTube, or even on try to select some different ones. You'll be surprised that it's can be really gifted musicians. There are other things that you can do, but if it all gets too much, I can definitely assure that the parties thrown by the embassy of Ukraine are not bad. They are very active. They have to be. There's also a lot of nationals of them here now in this country, as in many others, but very active, very involved. As I told you, they were at school, but they definitely know how to celebrate, and that is something that you will discover with Ukraine. Yeah, they know how to live. We feel, friends, that you have heard a lot about a very large country, in fact the largest of Europe, and in our perception we feel that you have deserved your part-time Ukrainian passport. Watch the video again and again, and yeah, let the inner Ukrainian out and be part of it. We hope that we were able to solve the puzzle a little bit for you, and I'm glad that for once we could talk about the cultural aspects of the country, not the war aspects of the country. And having said that, we want to thank our beloved audience for joining us.
And in Ukrainian we would say "Дякую."
Or щиро дякую.
Dewey dewey. Dewey dewey. Bye bye. Ciao ciao. Tschüssi. Adios.
So, it's been so long.
My laptop betrayed me in the beginning. It just turned off the sound the moment you started. I was
My
like,
Wi-Fi
Yeah.
as well.
This was a really swinging lesson. I know that I was crying yesterday, but now I'm smiling, and that's why when I was like that. But this one, I can say we did, and we did it with style.